Most people are paying 4 to 6 different tools to get one job done. And in this case, definitely when it comes to lead generation, outreach, follow-ups, managing the CRM, there's so many tools that can easily run you up to $200 to $500 per month. And if you're scaling this operation, then this can easily run up to over $1,000 per month. And this doesn't include, say, if you have any sort of high-ticket closers, if you have any sort of appointment setters for your business, that when you actually do have any sort of deal or opportunities in the sales pipeline, and then what you do with it. When it comes to B2B, whether you're doing B2B sales, B2B SaaS, the opportunities that come into your sales pipeline at some point may need a human touch. And at the end of the day, that's probably the most highest revenue generating activity. So you want to save that for yourself. So my question to you is, what if you can save only that activity for you as a key person or maybe some key person on your team and replace everything else with a fully managed AI CRM? Or more specifically, an autonomous AI system that runs and does the lead generation for you, manages the initial outreach, the multiple touch points, and then also to the follow-up sequences. And what if I told you you can easily do this with a tool like Codex or even Claude Desktop? And at the end of the day, this is very simple. You just need 3 things. You need a CRM, which is really a place where to manage your opportunities. You need a way how to source these leads. And then you also need a way how you initiate the contact and then also how you follow up with the contacts. In this video, I'm going to be showing you just a simple demo example of a autonomous CRM that I've built for myself. We're not going to be too fancy with it. All it really is just using Google Sheets, a few developer tools, and I'll show you how I mapped everything out where, say, we can autonomously with Codex generate the leads, find the leads with simple online tools and online public information, how we can source them and put them into the CRM so then we can initiate the contact and also enrich the data so it's hyper-personalized outreach and not just something generic. And then from there, how we can manage the multiple touch points so we can eventually get a conversation on a phone call booked. Or say we can continue the follow-up sequences indefinitely until we finally get a response. I'm going to walk you through how this whole entire system works inside of my computer. So we're going to jump right into that and let's dive right into it. All right, comrades, welcome in. So I'm just going to quickly go over the high level of what we're running this on and how this is working and how you can kind of fetch or piece something together yourself so you can pretty much replicate what I got, or you can make it more advanced. Now keep in mind, this isn't the most sophisticated system. You can definitely make it more advanced. This is just a brief outline and skeleton in terms of like, oh, this is the direction you can go to fully automate it and then to fully have a lead generation system, outreach system, and even a follow-up system that can fully manage itself and run autonomously. And then you can scale up to a lot of numbers every single day in terms of how many touch points you're getting. Now, so what are we running this on? So I've been experimenting a lot with the ChatGPT Codex and the ChatGPT 5.5. It's amazing. I'm not going to lie. It's amazing. It really does cook. I've been a huge Claude fan for a minute now, and I've been using all these tools, and I'm not going to lie. Codex kind of blew me out the water, and this thing can literally run your business, right? This thing can really do your outreach and your CRM. So I decided to build a project around the Codex as the main brain behind the whole entire system here. So we have Codex, all right? So we have the Codex chat here on the side, which is like through the desktop app. If you don't have that downloaded, get that downloaded. We're also running Vappy. So for Vappy, we're going to be using the voice AI agents for any sort of outbound calls, where we have a self-hosted N8N instance. So I'm running this right now on my own server, and I have some self-hosted workflows running on that for like webhooks and like what to do with information that gets called or like any sort of events that happened. And then what we're also running and using for email inboxes is agent mail. Ideally, I wanted to use like a Google Workspace account or like maybe like an Outlook or something, but I totally forgot, like, once again, like we're literally in the age of agents and stuff like that. So it's just better to give these agents their own inboxes. And this is a pretty good platform where it's literally built for that because I'm a huge Proton user. I do value privacy and stuff like that. So I couldn't, unfortunately, get any integrations into Proton Mail, unfortunately. So, I think it's just better just equip the agents you're running your stack or whatever systems you're building with their own inboxes, and agent mail definitely does that really, really good. So let me just kind of first show you the map overview of what's going on. There's a few automation prompts and then also like a skill prompt just to be aware of, so you can have this thing running 24/7 on weekdays or any sort of specific days you want this thing to be doing its work, right? So I just literally went over the tools. We got the tools, and the way the system works. I just want to, like I said, I just want to give like a quick high level overview of what the system looks like and does. So then we can kind of piece things together. Then at the end, I can kind of show you like a demo example of maybe like a call or something that comes into the pipeline, and then how that kind of sounds like. But we have the flow chart of how the system works, right? So I built a skill for this thing. I built some automations where it's running. So there's the initial lead generation and outbound. And then there's also the follow-up where it manages the statuses. It knows once you reach out, do another touch point. So you kind of have to bake this all into the skill itself and ideally map out ahead of time how you want to do the outreach. Do you want the first outreach to be a call? Do you want the first outreach to be an email? And then how you're managing this, right, with the statuses. So it's ideal that you have this all pre-planned and mapped out, and then you can kind of build out your whole entire flow here. So we got the trigger that comes out every single day. So they're daily, manual. And then what we were doing here is we were researching leads. So if you have an API access to like Google Maps, or you're using some sort of Appify actor, or you're using some other source where you can easily just call information that is legit. So any sort of contact information, like maybe if you have some sort of lead gen software or something like that, or maybe you have some sort of list where you can do some sort of pull from it and then source it into your CRM, whatever. We need to have some sort of way how to source these leads. So if you don't have any leads and you're looking to source them, I would recommend a tool like Firecrawl, Parallel AI, or maybe even one of these web search capabilities by these AI models, so that it can pull into real legit information. And then from there, it can pull it into the CRM. Once you find the information and then you pull it into your CRM, I didn't mention here in the flowchart, but I think it's also very critical where you can enrich your leads. So recently, I believe I released a video on data enrichment for enriching leads, literally with just an AI. It's insane. What you can do is you can literally specify the criteria in terms of the columns of what kind of data enrichment. So kind of like if you've ever heard of a tool like Clay, they pretty much enrich your leads. So in certain markets like real estate or something like that, you may use something like skip tracing, or you may sort of triangulate information together to better enrich the data. Clay kind of does that on a sort of more macro general level for all sorts of businesses. And I didn't mention it here, but I do have a step where we literally data enrich the leads. So what's going on right now in their market? What market are they in? What kind of assets, say maybe a broker or say a wholesaler, or maybe say a investor or someone is potentially searching for, right? You want to personalize every single lead row. So then whenever you're getting the AI to generate some sort of hook, some sort of body message, or even some sort of outreach message, it's very personalized to them. That's why when you use a tool like Clay for data enrichment, they get very high responses, because it's not some sort of generic BS or something that sounds like an AI that you're sending out to the lead. When you're sending out something that is very relevant to them, because people are more interested in themselves, like just some simple how to win friends and influence people type shit, you know what I mean? So when people understand, so when people hear things that ring their ears, so you're speaking to their problems, their desires, they're more likely to respond to you. So when you can enrich the lead row information, you're going to have highly personalized information. So I'm going to give like a quick sneak peek into the CRM, and this is all fake demo information. None of this stuff is real. But as you can see here, like if maybe you pull in, say, a set of amount of leads using maybe like a Google Maps actor on Appify, which is really just a API for finding leads on Google Maps. So you might be able to extract the email, maybe the website, maybe a name, maybe the title of the person, but you might not have the information about, say, what kind of assets are these people looking into or investing into? What kind of business do they have? What's going on in their market? Like what's their market intelligence like? Is it a dry season? Is it a busy season? You know what I mean? So you want to find some sort of like market signals that you can kind of press their buttons. So like simple copywriting right now, right? Like if you can find the buttons that will motivate people to give you some sort of direct response in your marketing, in your outbound, whatever, you can get a more higher outreach response rate versus just giving something generic for everyone, right? Which is problematic in itself. So we're applying a sort of data enrichment layer here when the AI is fetching and sourcing the leads. And then the next step is to, okay, what the prompt is next in the automation flow is to enrich the data, find some market signal, and then add it to the necessary rows. So I literally had Codex create these various different columns. So one of them is like the target market, target service type, the bucket of the opportunity. So this is owner operated, mid volume, high urgency emergency services. So like the different types of opportunities I can angle my outbound for these sort of leads. So then some sort of market observed signals. So here, for instance, is like maybe they have no website for blah, blah, blah. So like, let's imagine I'm creating website services, right? For businesses that have literally no website or something like that. If there's literally no website on their Google Maps, then maybe there's an opportunity for you to go out and reach out and be like, hey, we can build you this website, or maybe you've already built out a MVP website. So that's kind of the whole point of what's going on here, right? Most likely bottleneck, right? Like this is another like a interesting data enrichment layer where it's like you can identify the biggest bottleneck in this person's business, and then you can use that in the hook of your outbound. So that's kind of like, an angle here. And that's kind of like the whole purpose of the enrichment layer. So once it's in the CRM, there it is actually. You enrich the lead data, you update the Google Sheet CRM. And by the way, I literally did this with Google Sheets. You don't need no crazy expensive software like Close CRM, Go High Level, or any of that. I mean, you definitely can. They're built for opportunities and things like this. So if you're trying to be scrappy right now, build something for free and build something flexible, go for just like Google Sheets. But if you want to make it more better, professional, maybe say a tool you already subscribe to has all the necessary APIs to pretty much do everything I'm talking about here, then by all means do that. But just for the sake of this video and this project, I decided to do it in Google Sheets. But anyway, every single run on automation, what we can do is you can specify in a prompt for how many leads and new prospects you can add into the CRM. So in this case, we're doing 20. And then what we do here in the same workflow is selects and filters the leads for specific criteria. So people we haven't contacted yet, maybe they're in our database and they need an initial touch or something like that. Are we doing a call? This is all in the prompt itself, which I'll share with you in just a bit. But once it filters and selects the leads, it does an initial outreach email with agent mail. So if we go back into the CRM, as you can see here, the AI, what it does is every time it populates the leads, it fills out the full entire row on all these various different statuses. So we'll have like the first line hook of like what could be the hook, right, of the potential lead, and how we can set up a potential offer, or what we can pitch them in the message, right? So if you already are running a specific offer, you want to have this already like set in stone in the AI scale so it knows what kind of offer you're running. But just for the sake of this demo example, I just pretty much prompted the AI to create just a bunch of demo mock-up stuff here, just to like protect privacy and stuff of like the one I'm actually working in right now myself. But every single time it's going to populate a lead list, there's going to be a sort of outreach subject. There's going to be the outreach message itself, which is going to be sent in agent mail. And then from there, what's going to happen is you're actually going to have the AI send out a message on agent mail. And like I said, all agent mail really is just an inbox. You can manage your inboxes for your agents. You can see all the message it's sending, it's receiving, the statuses, whether these emails were bounced or were they actually received. So it's just a simple tool for your AI to send out email at scale. Great tool, by the way. And then from there, what will happen is after the AI has sent and did a API call to agent mail, it's going to mark everything as sent. So it's going to update the status. What's the follow-up date? So I created like a system of like, it should probably do a follow-up in about 3 days. And then we're waiting a reply status. So every time on the on the follow-up automation, it's going to be checking the statuses of my emails to check, okay, is today a day where what we can do is we can follow up with one of the leads that we've already sent the initial outreach to, or what touch point did we already send an outreach to? And then the next touch point in this sequence would be to give them a call. So on the next sequence, what we'd have is a call, right? So then it says there's a next action here. There's a few different sort of actions. There's different sorts of reply statuses. There's different outreach statuses, right? And then what we have here is a sequence of steps. So what kind of like outreaches we have? So we have 2 emails that get sent. We have 2 calls that get sent, and then we stop after, say, the whole entire flow goes, right? So, and then there's also a stop reason, right? Did we book the person? Is it a wrong number? Is it a do not contact or do not call, not interested, some sort of error? So we have all the stuff. And then also like inside of the CRM itself, we have these different sort of IDs for the columns. So the agent mail inbox, the agent mail thread ID. So this is all just like sort of metadata for like just the developer stuff to like track. So when the AI is actually searching up the inbox and it's searching up to which thread to follow up on, or to like say post a reply mail to, it's going to know exactly the ID to look up and then just to follow up on that, versus just creating another message outbound campaign, which, if you're following up, you might as well just with the initial contact follow up with the initial mail versus say creating a total different one, unless you're sending some sort of like value campaign or something to like keep a touch point on the potential prospect. But as we're going back here, so it would send out the initial mail versus agent mail. it would we also have some N8N workflows going on in the background. So this one is on agent mail webhooks. So we have some sort of events here that get fired and triggered. So let's say something bounced or something didn't work out, or maybe say we got a response or something like that. What we have is a workflow where when something happens, it posts and sends me a Discord message, right? So you can have this polling, you can have this being on intervals, but I just have it through simple webhooks. So when an event posts, it notifies me on Discord, and then that's about it, right? I know you can make this a little bit more advanced, but just for the simplicity sakes of this video, I just made it super stupid simple. And by the way, if you don't know how to create these workflows, you can literally just prompt Codex and it'll literally just paste you a full entire JSON output. You can just paste it in here and it should be work. You might have to do some manual configurations, but nonetheless, it's pretty solid, right? And at the end of the day, all we want this thing to do is just work, right? That's all we want at the end of the day. But then, yeah, so there's a combination of things that are happening here. So it's either looking for webhook events from agent mail, it's checking whether the status was successful. If it was, it's going to update the CRM, and then it's going to update a combination of things here. So I don't believe I shared my other tabs here, but there's a few other tabs with some demo data I have, right? So this is one is a call log. This one is an outreach log, and this is the outreach log for the emails. So here, what would happen is like after we get the emails sent out, just a combination of things that are happening here. So what Codex does is it updates the timestamp, CRM row, name, company, email, the inbox. Like this is what I meant, like which inbox inside of agent mail we're using, because you can create multiple inboxes. What's the action here? Is it an outbound? Is it an inbound? What type of event type? So was it sent? Was it received? Did something bounce? What's the outreach method, right? So we did the initial business outreach email. The sequence step, remember we did the sequence step. So it's email 1 to call 1 to blah, 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 subject, body, the agent mail thread ID, agent mail message ID, the status, the notes. So this is all like pretty much you're saving the status of everything. So your AI can easily kind of like sift through, look through all the information. And this is all built into the custom skill. So when it's working with the CRM, so we don't want to like bloat everything here on the primary tab. We want to pretty much have the main information with like the image agent mail information. So I know when I was creating this demo CRM, that wasn't actually included here, but a lot of the logs are here, right? So like nonetheless, like in the real CRM, we would see is like this real information here also on the what's it called, like these columns here. So it's all saved in tracks, so your AI can easily navigate the full entire CRM the more autonomous it becomes and knows how to like work this thing. So we updated the CRM. We appended the outreach logs. We sent out some emails here, and then what this thing is doing is now it's queued to run on the next trigger on a future date. So right now this thing is working on weekdays of the week, so Monday through Friday. I believe the initial outreach starts at 9 a.m. and then the follow-up sequences start at around 1 p.m., 12 p.m. So they're not happening like all in the same go, but at two separate times, right? So then here, next time the same trigger runs, right? Like the lead gen, the initial outreach one, it goes all the way back to say reading the CRM, which is the source of truth. It filters all the criteria, it checks the status of everything, and then repeats this whole entire process again. So now let's actually talk about like the follow-up trigger, because this is also another automation. By the way, I know we still haven't talked about like the automation prop. I'll get to that in just a moment. I just want to still like, go over the whole entire map of how everything here works so you understand and how this thing actually functions. So there's also a follow-up prompt automation in Codex. So by the way, if you don't know, whether you're in Claude or whether you're in Codex, there are these things called automations. You can set up automations with specific prompts for your business or whatever you're doing. Maybe it's a personal task or whatever. And these automation prompts, which I'll show you in just a moment, what we can do is have them running on specific times of the day, right? So that's pretty much what I mean here by the CRM follow-up queue, or where the trigger starts, right? So here, if say we're doing a initial follow-up after our initial email, either it depends on the sequence you set from a high level, right? If you set it to do a email follow-up next before a call, it's gonna check for the follow-up status, what the next action step is. So remember we talked about doing the next action step, whether it's a call, whether it's an email, and you build this into the AI Codex skill to know like, okay, after we send the initial email, what do we do next? Do we send them an email next? Do we send them a call next? So you kind of like mastermind this in the beginning before you have this set up. But I did that myself. So the next step, like if it says to do an email follow-up, it's going to filter all the rows there and it's going to send the follow-up. Otherwise, it's going to read the whole entire CRM call queue. It's going to prepare 10 calls to call that are ready to call with any information. Also too, like you can make your VAPI outreach agent, like, read this whole entire information here or like send any information into VAPI. So when you are doing the outreach, you could be like, hey, by the way, we sent you an email yesterday about blah, blah, blah topic. Do you have a moment to talk about this, right? So you can make it very personalized, even to the level and depth of the email of the initial outreach that you sent. So it doesn't just sound like some initial outreach, but actually gives context in terms of the previous message that was sent, right? So that's also pretty important to consider in mind. But that would take some extra engineering time, but nonetheless, it's very possible. So you can prepare 10 calls to get ready to send, put it into a queue so it gets called, and then from there. Right now, what I did was I built like a manual trigger, which I can also show you in just a moment of like how this thing can actually sound. But just for testing purposes, I created like an admin level UI where on the admin level UI, you can just initially test some of these calls, see how it works, play around with it before you even automate this thing, right? Because if you automate this thing and it's just flopping, that's pretty dangerous, right? So don't do that. Test it with yourself before you fully automate this thing. And when it's ready to run, your Codex can like send a trigger somewhere on the web, whether say you have like a N8N workflow or somewhere else where you're hosting like the trigger to get this thing to actually start the outreaches, right? But nonetheless, I have this UI where I can trigger test manual calls. And from there, what it does is it normalizes the phone, sends context to VAPI, and then what VAPI does is it does the outbound outreaches. So here we have the admin level UI where you can just test some of the calls, right? Otherwise, this thing can run fully autonomously without you having to lift a finger, you having to do anything about it, right? But here we just kind of populate everything from our CRM. And from there, you can just kind of give some test calls to see whether or not VAPI and any of these other assistants that you created, like which are these call agents, actually sound real and legit for your business. So, they're not flopping, but actually booking and putting things on your calendar. So this thing can check for availability. It can book meetings on my calendar, and it can pre-qualify the people that I'm speaking to. So if we press call here, it's actually going to call me.
With
Hello?
Operationify, I know I'm catching you cold, so I'll be quick. Notice you focus on NYC multifamily and mixed-use owners where timing and follow-up usually decide whether a conversation turns into a listing. Do you have 30 seconds, and then you can tell me if seller conversations in NYC Manhattan are even relevant?
Sure. Yeah, sure.
Thanks, Jan. So the reason I reached out, your broker profile suggests you're doing a lot of owner follow-up and off-market seller research. Usually that's where consistent timing and outreach can really move the needle, but it's tough for a small team to keep up without adding more admin work. Is finding motivated sellers or having more qualified owner conversations in Manhattan still a priority for you right now?
Yeah, sure. Book me tomorrow for 1 p.m.
Great, thanks for that. Just to confirm, you mean 1 p.m. Pacific time, tomorrow, Wednesday, May 6th? If that's right, let me check the team's calendar to make sure we have a full slot open for you. Does Pacific time work, or did you mean Eastern?
Yeah, sure.
You're all set for a quick AI agent setup intro call with the team tomorrow at 1 p.m. Pacific. You'll get a calendar invite at Sierra at Jan. If anything changes, just let me know. Otherwise, someone from Operationify will connect with you then. Thanks for making time, Jan.
Thank you. And then as you can see here in my calendar, the AI booked the meeting with me, right? So this is like the fake demo email I've had here with me. And there we go, you know what I mean? So, cool stuff. But that is an example where you can have it fully automated. You can either trigger it manually yourself, or you can get the AI just to like do like an API call to trigger it online. And then from there, you got your own outbounds doing work, right? So then what happens is VAPI will do some sort, or will call back some results. They will be populated back into the CRM. So here, the call log. So, this is not that didn't get pushed into my actual or demo CRM here. It got pushed to my actual real one. So here, what you would see is like the actual logs of the conversations, right? So the name, the emails, the information, what was the actual summary of the call, what's the next step, right? Was the transcript, like the full entire transcript, and then also the call ID, the recording URL from VAPI, and then the ended reason, right? And then how long these sessions actually took. So this is actually really interesting intel you can save for yourself. How you can improve the AI, and from there, improve your conversions. So then here, what happens after the call gets called, it updates the CRM, call logs, did it book the meeting? Yes. If so, it's going to alert me in Discord, which it did. So as you can see here, it booked me on Discord. It notified me by alert, or you can do this in Slack. It can alert you somewhere else, doesn't matter. So if it actually did book you, it's going to alert you. Otherwise, it's going to mark this flow as complete. It's going to tell you a new sort of step of what to do. So what actually happened here, right? So did the call actually succeed, right? So here, what would have happened is this thing would have updated the call. It would have probably set up to do a follow-up email. And then the sequence step would now be, so it would say call one queued, call one done. And then the next step would be to do email one, right? And the stop reason depends on, say, whether we booked or did not book. So since we booked, it would have done booked, right? And there's actually no reason to do any sort of next step because we're actually booked on the calendar, right? So it would have actually been stopped. But let's give an instance of, say, it was not booked. The next step would be, this wouldn't even update actually. It wouldn't even update. So the next step would literally just be to send an email to, and then just kind of like update everything accordingly. So from the call logs to the outreach logs, everything here would be tracked, right? So this is kind of like a mini sort of database inside of your CRM here where everything's being tracked. Codex knows how to run it, and it honestly just cooks, right? So this is just something simple you can work off with. I know there's kind of like a lot of stuff there, don't get me wrong, but let's actually kind of look at some of the few things here that I mentioned. So these are a bit generalized because I had to like remove some sensitive private information, but nonetheless, you want a combination of things. So you want like a CRM skill, how to actually work with the CRM. So how to use agent mail, how to use the CRM, what kind of like what to do every time this thing is waking up, how to work with the API keys, where are they stored, how to understand the schema, how to draft different emails, what kind of offer you are running, whether you like what kind of email style you're doing. Maybe you can include a sort of default email structure like I have here, how you are following up, like what's that actual follow-up sequence, are you waiting 2 to 3 days? So this is exactly how the agent knows how to update the rows, the columns, whatever you're doing here. And then you can do like different sort of if cases. So if this, then that, if that, then this, right? So you're creating the condition logic inside of the CRM, or I'm sorry, yeah, the CRM skill itself. And from here, literally every time this thing wakes up and it's time to do a sort of agent mail outreach, it literally just comes out here and just starts cooking, right? So whether it's the initial outreach, the follow-up outreach, when it should schedule the follow-up outreach, what I also recommend is creating maybe in Miro a sort of flowchart sequence where you kind of know, okay, after I do the initial outreach, then we do a call in 2-3 days. If I do the call in 2-3 days, I'll do a follow-up email in about 1 day, 2-3 days, where it's like, hey, we tried calling you. This is what we talked about. This is what we could do for you, blah, blah, blah. And then from there, you can continue on with like the multi-step sequences of multiple touches inside of your CRM to increase the odds of someone actually opening up your email, maybe even answering you by phone call, and then finally actually scheduling a booked appointment with you or like a sales closer or whatever to actually get them to take them to the next step in your sales opportunity pipeline. So that's the general high level of the CRM skill. And then what we have here is the initial outreach automation prompt and then the follow-up automation prompt. So remember when I told you about the Codex automations? Exactly here. So what you would do is you would create a new automation, and then from there you would select the project, which is basically the folder you're working in. So you can create projects in Codex. Ideally, if you're going to be creating a CRM or one for your business, just work off that project. It's super easy. You can select the time and the intervals of when this thing is running. And then what you want to do here is create a automation title and a prompt. If you literally don't know how to prompt this thing, just ask Codex or Claude to create you the prompt, and it's going to give you a really strong prompt, right? So Codex cooked on this one and actually created a really, really strong prompt. And this thing, whenever it wakes up and it's time to like go do some lead generation or outreach, like this thing really does cook. Like it puts in work, right? So it's a really great alternative in terms of, say, using your own stack versus, say, paying a lot of money for a lot of this B2B SaaS or tools to do the lead generation for you, like manage your outbound campaigns, whatever, when you can literally just have a $20 a month subscription running this thing for you, right? It's actually pretty insane. But anyway, so the initial outreach automation prompt, so it finds and sources 20 different local SMB prospects into the Google Sheet, right? Based on like what you're looking for. Where's the source of truth? So the spreadsheet ID, which tab you're working in. So as you saw there were multiple tabs. We were working on a specific spreadsheet ID. You may have to like give editor access to the AI. So there are a few technical things I'm not going to go over in this video of like how to work with like Google Cloud or whatever. It's just to like access the sheet, or if you're using a tool like composio.dev to get your AI agent to access the sheet. So you do have to do some sort of integrations like that, which I'm not going to get into the video, but that is necessary if you want the AI to access your sheet. But nonetheless, once it has access, you can give it rules in terms of how it's generating the leads, how it's sourcing these things, make sure it's not hallucinating, double checking. Is it skip tracing? Is it using another tool to cross check and make sure everything is true? One thing I also recommend is maybe using a tool which can ensure that the inbox that you're creating or going to be, or what's it called, to make sure that the email you're about to send some sort of outreach to doesn't bounce. Because if you have high bounce rates, that can ultimately impact your sender reputation, right? Which is a bad thing if you start landing in spam and stuff like that. So you want to make sure that the deliverability and inboxes that you're sending emails to actually are real verified pieces of email, right? And nothing that just kind of was hallucinated or made on the spot by an AI. So just be very mindful of that. You know, I mean, I've had some times where emails bounced and I have to create some workarounds in terms of like how I'm verifying this is real legit information. So just be mindful of that. So moving on, like what other rules are you looking for? Is phone optional? Is email optional? So you can specify the criteria on that. How to specify the opportunity status. So we have like these opportunity status, as I mentioned here, like are these prospects? Are these people warm? Are these people cold? Are these people hot leads, right? So you want to kind of give your CRM a sort of intelligence in terms of when someone replies, are they warm now? Are they hot now? You know what I mean? What does it mean when you've won a opportunity? What does it mean when you lost an opportunity? So you kind of want to like set these rules and let the AI know of how to work with all these things. So we got the rules there for the lead generation. And then when it comes to the CRM columns, to complete it as much as possible. So all these different columns that we're creating here, how to use the CRM, how to position the offer, what's the default call to action, what's the email outreaches or the email rules, how to keep this structure simple, blah, blah, blah. And then the same thing for the follow-up automation, how to run the sequence, what to do, what are the rules, the conditions, how many emails or follow-ups you send or trigger per wake or automation cycle, how to reply to existing threads or whether they should start a new thread, what to do after each follow-up, right? Return when you're coming back, like what does it mean, blah, blah, blah. So as you can see here, this is a pretty strong, robust system. So all you really need is 2 robust prompts, and all you really need is a lead generation prompt with the combination. You know what? Actually, it might be 3, but if anything, if you want to consolidate just for a simple MVP, have a lead generation with initial outreach prompt and then a follow-up. But if you want to make it more thorough and strong, so your AI is not hallucinating, the more work it does, what I recommend is a lead generation one as separate, the initial outreach, and then the follow-up, right? So these 3 key components, giving it a understanding of like how to work the CRM and what to do next. And then of course the scale, right? This is like the bedrock thing. It's going to be referencing every single time. So this one is also super important. But yeah, nonetheless, this was the whole entire CRM I was talking about. This is pretty much how it works. You can add texting into it. You can add 12, 13, 30-day, 60-day outreach and multi-step sequences. This thing is really just a limit of your imagination and creativity in terms of how big and robust you can make it. So this is an example of what I mean by having your own automated CRM. So this is like a source of truth. It can manage and triage your inboxes. So whenever something happens, you're going to get like webhook events that come in. It's going to let the AI know what's going to happen. Like if you have like these sort of different N8N workflows, it can update the CRM automatically to tell you, oh, hey, we got an inbound. It's time to respond. Or maybe you can have like simple automation steps where it checks on intervals every couple hours or whatever to like manage the status. So like if you did get any inbound, what do you do with the inbound, right? So yeah, at the end of the day, all you have to do is just be kind of creative with it and just figure out, okay, this is how I want the workflow to look like. This is how I want the CRM to function. This is how I want it to sound like. And then from there, you just make it as robust as possible for your own unique purpose and business cases. That was the video. Thanks for watching. This was kind of a long one, but nonetheless, I mean, these things are, especially these agents, right? These agents are becoming more and more autonomous. These tools are becoming super powerful. Codex actually really blew my mind in terms of like with their new ChatGPT 5.5 model. So this thing can really run your whole entire CRM here, and your outreach process is actually pretty insane. So nonetheless, give it a try. Let me know what you think of the CRM here in terms of like how I outlined it. If you want to see something specific, let me know. If you're interested in learning more of this stuff, subscribe to my newsletter. I send out tips and information about this stuff all the time. And also, if you're interested in watching more tips and content around AI, subscribe to my channel. I release content every single week. AI is really the future. There's so many things you can do with it and so much more to drop on it. So stay tuned for more content, and I'll see you in another one. That's it.